I was never a runner. I'm built like a guy who carries groceries in 2 trips instead of one just to keep the eggs safe. My exercise is practical. Fix the fence, haul boxes, take the stairs. But when Naomi decided she was going to run a half marathon, I learned the language. Easy runs, tempo days, long slow distance. I printed a 12-week plan and taped it to the fridge like a child's artwork. Every square had a purpose. 3 miles. Rest. Cross-train. 8 miles. Taper. We make time for what we love, I thought. So I made time. At first, it felt good to support her. I bought her the shoes with the foam that's supposed to give back energy. I set the coffee machine the night before her early runs and left the mug on the counter with the spoon already placed just so. I learned to tie a runner's loop in her laces to prevent heel slip. It was a project, something we could build together. Not a house, not a business, but a finish line she could cross while I cheered and took blurry photos. Our mornings changed. She started getting up before dawn, slipping out while the city was still a draft version of itself, streetlights humming, storefronts asleep. I'd lie there and listen to the lock click, then the elevator cables sigh. 30 minutes later, the door would open again and she'd pad back in, breathing deep, cheeks flushed. She looked alive. I'd hand her the cold bottle I'd put in the fridge the night before, and she'd touch my wrist without looking. A quick thank you that didn't need words. I kept a little notebook on the counter where she could write how the run felt. Most days it was just a number, 3, 1 or 5, 0, with a check mark. Sometimes she'd write, felt heavy until mile 2, or windy on the bridge. It was our conversation in graphite. Around week 4, I need space, joined the vocabulary. Not as a threat, more like a sentence in a book you almost missed, then read again because it changes the shape of the chapter. We were sitting on the couch, Netflix asking if we were still watching in that passive-aggressive way it does, when she pressed pause and said she wanted to take training more seriously. It helps to have my head clear, she said. Not noise. And she flicked her eyes toward the TV like it was the noise, not me. You know? Sure, I said. I took the hint and started giving her the house at night. I went to the gym later, read in the bedroom while she stretched, made dinner, and left her plate covered so she could eat when she felt like it. Logistics, I told myself. Support looks like logistics. 2 weeks later, the shoe box tower grew. Stability shoes, trail shoes for softer surfaces, a pair with carbon in the midsole she wouldn't wear until race day because you don't waste the magic on a Tuesday. I replaced the laces on her old pair and left them by the door with a note, for rainy days. She left me a heart drawn in pencil on the training plan. It smudged when I brushed it, but I didn't try to fix it. Smudged things are still proof. Our dinners became quiet. She needed protein, so I learned to cook salmon in a pan hot enough to sing but not scream, and chicken so it stayed tender and didn't turn into cotton. I didn't light candles because scent can be annoying after a long run. I learned these little rules by listening. I got good at listening. There are other kinds of listening, though, the kind you do when someone stops saying what they used to. The "how was your day?" that disappears. The "I miss you" that doesn't. One night, I asked how her long run went, and she said, fine, in a way that meant the conversation was over before it began. I watched her thumb flick through her phone, stopping on a video of some runner doing drills with perfect knees. I might join a small group for weekend long runs, she said. It's safer, and the miles go faster. I nodded because safety isn't something you argue with if you're a decent person. Group runs meant Saturdays were no longer ours. She'd leave at 6 with a gel packet shoved into her pocket, the kind with a tear-off top that's all sugar and caffeine. I'd watch cartoons for adults, home renovation shows where strangers tear apart kitchens without even measuring twice, and then I'd make pancakes and keep them warm in the oven. Noon would become 1, 1 would become 2. Stretching, she'd text. Coffee with the group. I'd send a thumbs up, which is not the same as saying okay, but it does the job. I told myself I was being supportive. Don't smother. I'd whisper when the elevator sighed, and she still wasn't back. I stacked the pancakes into a little tower and put foil over them. When she finally got home mid-afternoon, she'd eat standing up, tearing the pancakes with her fingers like bread. Syrup ran down her wrist. These are still good, she'd say and kiss my cheek like you do a polite host. Later, when I cleared the counter, I'd wipe a sticky arc from the marble and rinse the syrup from the sponge longer than necessary. Her new routine settled into the corners of the apartment like borrowed furniture. Resistance bands lived under the coffee table. A foam roller took up the spot where we used to play cards. The blender became louder and earlier. When I looked at our living room, I saw a track nobody else would notice, an oval of habits with no stands for fans. I didn't mind the mess. I minded the silence that came with it. Naomi's laugh used to bounce around the place like sunlight on glass. Now it came out packaged, 10 seconds at a time on her phone. She'd snort, send something to someone, then smile at the response and tilt the screen away from me as if the person on the other side of the glass could read my face. We had a joke once. If either of us became a phone person, the other had to stage an intervention. We never defined phone person because you don't until you live with one. It's not about the minutes. It's about presence. She was there and not. I learned to stop finishing my own sentence if she looked down in the middle of it. Week 10 brought spring and a heat that made the sidewalk smell like penny candy and wet stone. Naomi's long runs crept into double digits. She came back one Sunday with salt dried along her hairline like lace. "That was rough," she said, sitting on the floor, expression somewhere between proud and irritated. I handed her the bottle already in the fridge and tried to read her in the way you do when you love a person who's turned into a puzzle that used to be a painting. "Proud of you," I said. She nodded, a tight movement that didn't let my words in. "I need a nap," she said. "And then I think I'll go to the running store. My buddy said they're doing free gait analysis." Buddy. I let the word go by like I hadn't heard it. Names come later if they're supposed to. The running store printed a little sheet with her foot strikes, a series of grainy frames that made her look like a character escaping a flipbook. She put it on the fridge next to the training plan. I pretended not to notice that the pencil hearts had stopped showing up. 3 weeks out from the race, her coach entered the chat. Not officially, not with business cards or a handshake. Just a first name woven into the air like lint. "Ben says I should do more hills. Ben says my cadence is decent. Ben says not to overhydrate the night before." I asked, casually as a man can, how she met Ben. "Long run group," she said. "He's fast but not obnoxious about it." I said it sounded useful, and it did. I am not the jealous kind. Jealousy looks like insecurity wearing a cheap cologne. I told myself a coach was exactly what committed people get when they want to finish strong. I told myself that the way she said Ben, like a tool you trust, was a good sign. No flutter in it, no flourish. Just a lever that did its job. The week before the race, I picked up her bib with the safety pins and the see-through bag for clear bag policy at the start line. The envelope had her name in bold letters, and under it a row of sponsors who sell socks and hope. I bought a thick marker and made a sign. "Naomi, steady legs, strong heart." I don't make clever signs. I make honest ones. I packed a little kit for spectating, portable charger, tissues, a snack for me, salt tabs for her in case she forgot, a disposable poncho in the event of a tantrum from the sky. I measured the course map against the subway lines and chose 2 spots where I could hop from one to the other and catch her twice before the final turn. I tested the race app that morning, so I wouldn't be the guy swearing at a phone with everyone watching him. The night before the race, I made the dinner the internet said is good for runners. Simple pasta with oil, a bit of chicken, nothing too heavy, not too much garlic. I burned the edges of the bread on purpose because that's how she likes it. She ate quietly, then stood, kissed my temple, and said, "Thanks for all this." I turned the words inside out a few times like a coin you want to spend, but think might be good luck. "All this." She gestured toward the table, but I couldn't tell if she meant the food, the weeks, the training plan with smudged pencil, or me. I decided me would be too much to ask of the moment. I nodded. "You're ready," I said. "You've done the work." She smiled at the sink while she rinsed her plate. "Yeah," she said. "I have." We went to bed early. The city outside tried to stay up without us. In the gray before dawn, alarms began to ring in apartments like birds talking to each other between rooftops. Naomi sat up, already a runner, and moved around the room with her careful checklist. Bib pinned, gel packets taped to the belt, socks that don't rub the worst kind of way. I poured coffee and didn't ask if she wanted music. Race mornings don't need extra sound. They make their own. At the door, I touched her shoulders and looked at her face long enough to memorize it with the effort still stored. "I'll be at mile 4, I said. Then mile 9. Then the finish. Don't start too fast. Smile for the photos you'll hate later." She laughed once, the laugh I knew. "You're ridiculous," she said. See you there. Then she was gone with everyone else whose day had a number in it. I pulled on a hoodie and joined the city in its pilgrimage to the margins of the course. The race app pinged. Naomi started. I thought about all the little things that lead to a starting gun. Laces tied, decisions made, quiet mornings I'd been part of even when she laced up alone. Pride is a strange cousin to love. It shows up wearing love's shirt, and you can't tell them apart until you say goodnight. I stood at mile 4 with the other people in hoodies holding signs made last minute in kitchens with bad markers. The runners came in every color of want. I yelled for strangers, you in the orange, let's go, and meant it. The app said Naomi had crossed 5K. I craned my neck and watched for her. Races are good at making you think you're the only person waiting. I saw her by the swing of her ponytail more than her face. She moved like the ocean when it's too tired to build waves, but still moves you if you stand in it. I held up the sign and yelled her name as if I were throwing a rope. She didn't see me. That happens. Runners go inward. I jogged along the fence a few steps, useless and happy. Strong heart. I yelled. She ran on. I took the subway to mile 9, clutching my kit like it mattered. The app showed her moving, patient, and relentless. At mile 9, the crowd was smarter. People who knew the place as a body starts negotiating with itself. I found a gap by the barrier and waited. She didn't seem to be slowing when she passed. I saw her face for a second. She looked through me like a window. I told myself not to take it personally. Pain narrows a person. I yelled anyway. She didn't wave. Okay. The finish line would be the moment. I would hand her a drink, and we would take a photo with my sign, and this would be one of those memory-shaped things you hold like a warm stone in your pocket someday. I hustled to the finish. The music got louder, drums and a DJ who thinks volume is a vocabulary. The app said she was at mile 11. I made my way to the far side where the finish funnels into a wide chute of bodies going from effort to after, that awkward moment where you don't know whether to laugh or cry, so you do both. I held the sign where she'd see it. I watched faces break open when they realized they were done. Mile 12. The dot crept. I checked the time. I had projected her finish within 2 minutes, because I'm a spreadsheet thief when it comes to the people I love. Almost there. I whispered like a prayer I didn't believe in. The dot stopped. It was small. A pause. The kind of thing that happens when a GPS thinks the sky belongs to someone else. I waited. The dot didn't restart. It stayed in place like a coin on a table. The map said she was a block off the course, near a hotel with a canopy that's good at sheltering people who don't want to be seen by the sky. I told myself the truth doesn't arrive at a sprint. It walks in politely and asks if it's a bad time. I refreshed the app. The dot stayed. I zoomed out and back in as if distance would make it kinder. The finish line cheered for people who were not mine. I felt the crowd's joy move past me like a train I wasn't boarding. I lowered the sign a little, just enough not to block anyone's view. The dip didn't move for 3 minutes. 4. I looked up from my phone and saw a runner collapse into their friend's arms. The friend had brought a banana and a second pair of shoes. The friend knew the right kind of grip for a person who has been carrying themselves for 2 hours. The dot started to move again, but it didn't return to the course. It slid further along the side street, slow, like a person walking in from the rain. It stopped again at the alley behind the hotel, then at the hotel itself. The app thought she had paused. The app used polite words. Something in me had been stretching for months. I felt it finally reach the end of its elasticity and go quiet. Not snap. Not dramatic. Just done. I didn't run to the hotel. I didn't call her. I didn't perform pain for a crowd that came for joy. I folded the sign in half, then into quarters, and slid it under my arm the way you carry a newspaper you've already read. I stood there until the music softened, until the people next to me found their person, until the volunteers started stacking barricades in bright metal piles that would be gone by dark. When I walked away, I chose a street that didn't have confetti on it. The city looked normal 3 blocks out. Dogs suspicious of all the new smells, a kid trying to convince their mom that the metal means dinner should be pizza. I passed a cafe and went in. The hostess asked how many. 1, I said. She gave me a table by the window like that would help. I ordered coffee and something to eat that didn't need a knife. My phone buzzed half an hour later. I'm so sore, the text said. Can you meet me at the family reunion area? A photo came through. Her bib, the medal, a smile that didn't show teeth. The kind of photo you can take anywhere if you know where to hold the frame. I looked at it like a stranger might. Race bibs can be picked up by anyone if they have the envelope. Medals are handed to you if you cross the line, but they can be handed to you later, too, if someone you know works a booth and thinks it's harmless. I had picked up her bib. I could have given it to anyone with her face if the lines were long or the volunteers tired. The city is good at sharing. I typed and erased twice. I'm proud of you became I hope your legs feel okay, which became nothing. I locked the phone and put it face down like a small animal. I didn't want to look in the eye. A couple took the table next to mine. They both wore medals. He kept touching his, like it would disappear if he didn't remind it who it belonged to. She leaned in and showed him something on her phone. He laughed and put his forehead to hers. I didn't feel envy. I felt a clarity I wouldn't have believed if someone had told me last year I could carry it without dropping anything. I paid, signed my name slowly, and left the receipt in the little black book like a note to a version of myself who still needed proof he existed. I didn't go to the reunion area. I didn't go home. I went to the storage unit I've paid for since my uncle left me his tools in a will that spelled my name wrong, but knew who I was. I opened the roll-up door and stood in that artificial dusk where the light hums and the dust lifts only when you move it. I found the boxes labeled with a past I hadn't visited in years. Old photos, college textbooks that teach the kind of math that doesn't help with this, the Navy duffel that has seen more miles of road than I have. I pack like a man who has done this in his head so many times it has the softness of routine. Not everything. Not the furniture, not the couch with our teams wear pattern, not the rug she chose that looks like a broken map. Clothes, documents, the book my dad wrote a life in with his marginalia, the pan that doesn't stick when you do it right, the small lamp that makes any temporary place feel like a decision. My passport. The photo of my mother with her hair up, balancing a bowl on one hip and laughing at something I'll never know. I took the training plan off the fridge in my mind and folded it until it was a square no bigger than my palm. Then I let it go. You can hold rituals so tightly that they stop being rituals and become handcuffs. At home, I wrote a note because ghosts are for haunted houses, not kitchens. On a plain sheet, in my careful print. Naomi, you told me you needed space to run. I gave it to you. I built a world around the miles you said would bring you back to yourself. If the finish line you chose today was not the one at the end of the course, I accept that. I won't argue with a fact. I'm not leaving to make you chase me. I'm leaving because I won't chase someone who runs to hide. Take care of yourself. Return the spare key to Marco at the deli. He'll get it to me if anything slips through the cracks. The rent is covered for this month. The plants need water on Wednesdays. I left it on the counter beside her favorite mug, the one with a chip on the lip she always says she hates and always reaches for anyway. I set the medal she hadn't earned next to the note, because maybe she had earned something. Maybe not the thing it claimed, but a thing, a choice, a story, a version of herself she wanted new enough to lie to keep. I will never understand what people think they deserve when they stand on a scale like that. I don't need to. I took my bag and locked the door and didn't do the thing where you stand with your hand on the wood as if a house can feel you. The hallway smelled like laundry and someone's dinner. The elevator cables sighed as if relieved. I drove to a short-term place with a parking lot that looks the same in every city. The clerk didn't care about my story. He handed me a key card and circled the ice machine on a cartoon map. The room had that anonymous bedspread that never looks clean even when it is. I put my lamp on the nightstand and the photograph of my mother on the desk. The room obeyed. It softened. My phone kept vibrating in the bag. The messages stacked. Where are you? I can't find you in the crowd. Then, can we meet at home? Then, I'm worried. Then, hours later, after the city washed the chalk arrows off the course and pulled up the barricades. If you're trying to punish me, you win. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Not because silence hurts more. It might. But because I have learned that words can be the cheapest tool in the drawer when the work requires a wrench. In the morning, the post-race emails arrived. Congratulations, Naomi, said one, with a finish time that belonged to the bib, not the body. Claim your photos, said another, with stock images of strangers lifting their hands at the line, the sort of pictures you can buy if you search the right database. I forwarded them to a folder named with the date, not the story. Later that week, I went to the deli and found Marco arranging oranges into a pyramid. He squinted, then smiled, like people do when they haven't seen your face attached to your name in a while. I gave him the key and the address on a sticky note. If anything arrives, I said, or if you need me to pick up the mail while things are strange. He nodded without asking for details. Men like him hear the non-words. They sell sandwiches that fix things dignity can't. I didn't run. I walked. I walked the course in reverse, a few blocks at a time, until the city gave me back my own pace. I watched the places where people had shouted themselves hoarse for strangers. I saw a child tie a ribbon to a lamppost and a dog try to eat it. I bought a coffee from a cart, and the man salted my lid by accident with his blue glove. He apologized too many times. I told him it was fine, and it was. The world had been salted enough. Sometimes I think about the sign, steady legs, strong heart. It was true when I wrote it. It is true now, in a different way. My legs are steadier when they aren't always moving towards someone who isn't facing me. My heart is stronger where it holds its own pace, where it doesn't sprint just because the person next to it loves the sound of feet on pavement. People ask in their careful ways what happened, and I say what you say when you choose dignity over plot twists. We wanted different finish lines. If they press, I hand them the silence I've learned to carry without resentment. Most understand. The ones who don't are the ones who would buy the photo with any bib number and call it memory. If I ever run a race, and this is not foreshadowing, just a man learning new verbs, I'll run it without an audience. I'll pick a morning with no banners and no drums, and I'll mark my miles by the corners I've memorized. The bakery with the cat in the window, the crosswalk that flashes too fast, the park bench where an old man feeds birds who don't keep score. I'll finish at my own door, any door I choose, and my medal will be the key turning in a lock that aligns because I aligned it. Naomi trained to go the distance. I trained to let go. One day soon, we'll divide the apartment into piles. Yours, mine, donate, and we'll speak gently because we owe each other that much. We'll cry maybe, or maybe we won't. The thing about finish lines, they look dramatic only from far away. Up close, they're just paint you step over on your way to wherever you're truly meant to be. What I learned at the finish line wasn't how fast someone can run. It was how quickly a person can stop pretending if they let themselves. And how quietly a man can set down a sign, fold it into quarters, and carry only what he wrote on it back out into the world. Steady legs, strong heart. The legs to walk away. The heart to keep going.